Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a great show for you today. We're going to start out with Governor Cuomo. Yes, Governor Cuomo is coming under fire, and I haven't talked a whole lot about it. But when Hillary Clinton comes out and questions someone about sexual deviance, it's hard to ignore. So we're going to talk about that and the whole episodes and the whole scandal surrounding Mr. Cuomo in just a moment. And if we have time, I'm going to talk about one of the greatest governors in the United States, our own Governor Ron DeSantis. Man, his star is rising. And rightfully so, because he's taking on all the major issues. And he came out yesterday with a press conference and some proposed legislation to basically stop Chinese influence on our college campuses. And when I say Chinese, I'm not talking about like history. I'm talking about the Chinese Communist Party basically running roughshod on our campuses and stealing all kind of research and everything else. Ron DeSantis is stepping up to the plate. So we'll talk about that. But before we really get too deep, we always have to talk about our sponsors. Big Daddy Unlimited, otherwise known as BDU. If you want to check out our sponsors, and we really need you to, because as I tell you all the time, not everybody can be a fighter like me and Billy Bob. He's my psychic sidekick, by the way. He's got a Twitter handle. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. But not all of us can be fighters, but we can all support those people that are in the fight, like me and Billy Bob, because I think if you've watched our show any length of time, I hope you would agree that I am a fighter, and I am fighting for your base. I'm fighting to battle ignorance and apathy on a daily basis. And Big Daddy Unlimited is a large part in making sure that that happens. Look above the video, no matter when or where you're watching our show, and you will see not only the show description, but scroll down on that, and you'll see links to our sponsors. One of them, which is Big Daddy Unlimited. I call them your Second Amendment headquarters, because not only can you get guns and ammunition, yes, I said guns and ammunition, delivered directly to your door at factory direct pricing, but you get literally 100,000 other items related to the Second Amendment, from protective gear, survival type stuff, even swag. All of that you can find at Big Daddy Unlimited. And I call them your Second Amendment headquarters because they are defending your Second Amendment on a daily basis. We also have patriotthreads.org. Look in the same area, you'll see a link to them. Apparel with a Purpose. They're called that because they are a total fulfillment center, which means they can produce t-shirts and that type of thing, patriotic gear for you. And you can get a 20% off with the promo code JMT. They can also sponsor or help you sponsor your own charity events. They can set all of that up. Check them out at patriotthreads.org. Then we have Recoil TV, ladies and gentlemen. Recoil TV is another Second Amendment site. We're archived. Our show is archived on their YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel ourselves, John Martin Talks, spell it all the way out. We need more subscribers and more views on that. But Recoil TV gives you all kind of videos related to the Second Amendment, from guns and ammunition and how to use them, the latest types of equipment that is coming out, video, those types of things. You can't find a better place than Recoil TV. Excuse me. All right, let's get, sorry about that. Let's get on with the show. We're going to start with a Breitbart article. And they do a great job at Breitbart. I use them quite a bit. Hillary Clinton, Cuomo's accusers deserve answers. Allegations difficult to read. Now, there's a picture, a very recent picture actually, of Hillary Clinton a couple years ago, I think, at the Gay Pride Parade in New York, and she's with her friend Andrew Cuomo. But Hillary, man, of all people, to call somebody out for having inappropriate connections or conduct with subordinates, women subordinates. I mean, Hillary, she knows no shame, I can tell you that. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton released a statement on Monday where she announced support for an investigation into allegations of sexual assault that have been waged against Governor Cuomo. She said, this is what she said. This is Hillary now. These stories are difficult to read. I wonder if it was difficult to read the ones about Juanita Broderick and, the list of people, Miss Flowers. I mean, the list of people that accused President Clinton is pretty long. These stories, she said, this is Hillary, are difficult to read, and the allegations brought forth raise serious questions that the women who have come forward and all New Yorkers deserve answers to. And I don't disagree with her in any way, shape, or form. I just find it a bit ironic that she's the one calling it out. She went on to say, I'm glad to see that there will be a full, independent, and thorough investigation. A thorough investigation. Now, do you remember what Hillary Clinton said in 1998, in part in response to the Monica Lewinsky deal? But basically, she was talking about this whole lineup of accusers of Bill Clinton, including he was actually accused pretty credibly of rape by Juanita Broderick. Do you remember what she actually said about that? We're going to play a clip from that in 1998 and listen to what Hillary Clinton says about her husband's accusers. Check it out.
The president, but his political foes.
The great story here, for anybody willing to find it and write about it and explain it, is this vast right-wing conspiracy that has been conspiring against my husband since the day he announced for president.
In private conversations later, notes taken by a longtime friend say Hillary Clinton dismissed Lewinsky as a narcissistic Looney Tune. And while she called her husband's behavior grossly inappropriate, she said the affair was consensual and hinted it was spurred by the political pressure he faced. It was a lapse. To his credit, he tried to break it off, tried to pull away, but it was beyond his control. Earlier this year, campaigning at a church, Clinton appeared to talk about forgiving her husband.
That's good enough. We'll move on. But think about what she said and what they talked about, that Bill was under tremendous pressure. Tremendous pressure. So I guess Monica was pressure relief. If the thing about it with Monica Lewinsky, if she'd have just kept her mouth shut, none of this would have happened. What did Bill Clinton say? I was just standing there, basically. And, I did not have sex with that woman. I was just standing there and, something happened. Somebody did something somewhere. I mean, the things these Democrats will say. But Hillary said that it was a vast right-wing conspiracy. So, what did, I'm trying to think of the guy from Louisiana. I lost my train of thought there a minute, but he said something to the effect that that's what you get when you roll a $100 bill through a trailer park, talking about the various women that accused Bill Clinton. Man, it's unbelievable. But she said it's a vast right-wing conspiracy. But Cuomo, not so much. I mean, it's the irony of Hillary Clinton saying, I hope it's not lost on you with my poor enunciation there. Last week, a former Cuomo aide went public with accusations of unwanted sexual advances from Cuomo. Lindsey Boland, let me first say that these women, everybody deserves their day in court, so to speak, but these women sound fairly credible to me. So we'll just talk about a little bit of the case and see what you think. Lindsey Boylan, the former Deputy Secretary for Economic Development and Special Advisor to Cuomo, said Cuomo repeatedly touched her body, attempted to kiss her on the mouth, invited her to play strip poker, and overtly objectified her, documenting her experiences with screenshots of emails and texts in a Medium post. So she actually has proof that Cuomo came on to her. Now, here's the thing, and I got to be kind of careful when I say this because I don't want it to be misconstrued. I am not in any way, shape, or form downplaying sexual assault, and or certainly, but even sexual innuendo. And when you have someone, here's the thing about Bill Clinton with Monica Lewinsky. He was her not, oh, think about this. And I'm not excusing her necessarily either, but she was like an early 20-something intern, and this guy was president of the United States of America and a big time figure, and she idolized him. That was pretty much proven true. And he took advantage of that situation. To me, that is the textbook of a man overstepping their power and using their power for intimidating and procurement of sexual favors. There's just no other way around it. So I am not, when I'm about, this will make sense in just a minute, so hang in there with me. I am not downplaying the accusations of these women at all in any way, shape, or form. But I find it curious as to why now. Why is it coming out now? And why is the press? Because from what I'm hearing, this was a not a very well-kept secret, an open secret, if you will, about Cuomo's behavior for decades. I mean, the guy's been involved in politics for a long time, and a lot of people said this is nothing new. And we're going to play a video from a few years ago that kind of proves that point here in just a moment. But why now? And I think there's two reasons. I'm going to go over the first one right now. Think about this. Cuomo, and I say I'm not forgiving, downplaying sexual stuff with women. I'm not. But to me, the bigger story is the 15,000 elderly people that died in nursing homes directly because of Governor Cuomo's policies, when it's coming out more and more that he knew that it was a death sentence to these people. So killing people outright, putting them in areas where he knows that they're going to come into harm's way and die, and then to cover up behind that is a 10 times bigger story than, overly flirtatious talking, even touching a woman, which I'm not downplaying that, but women dying, men and women dying in nursing homes is a bigger story. So I ask myself, why is it that this story about the sexual stuff is gaining traction when the other story seems to be off the radar screen already? I think it is because if you look at the policies that Cuomo pushed forward that killed all these old people, that Democratic governors were doing the same thing, and Democratic officials all across the United States. There's evidence that the same thing happened out in California under Newsom. We know that the lady, or I guess she's that lady that's a he, or whatever you want to call her, that is coming up. I think she's like the under health secretary or whatever from Pennsylvania. She put people in the nursing homes at the same time, taking her mother out, her own mother out, knowing that it was a death sentence. And there are governors across in New Jersey. They basically did the same thing. Governor Murphy that Cuomo did. So I think that one of the reasons they're not going after Cuomo for this COVID deal, where he put these people in nursing homes, and they are prosecuting, so to speak, even though he hadn't been prosecuted, the sexual stuff, is because they don't want to throw multiple governors under the bus if they went down that road. That's just a theory I have. But according to Boylan, this is the one of the women accusers, Cuomo's top female staff members normalized the governor's behavior, and she was reprimanded when she chose to speak up after Cuomo kissed her without consent, Boylan wrote. So they normalized this. The female staffers around Cuomo basically told her, get in line if you're going to accuse him of this, because it's nothing new. Normalize the governor's behavior. So once again, why now? Why is this coming up now? And why not the COVID killings in the nursing home? Well, I think that the second part of this is why this is coming up now is because there's no Donald Trump. There's no Donald Trump in the White House to be the foil. And so you remember for literally all of last year, Cuomo was propped up as being the last ditch candidate if it became clear that they couldn't do any voter mod or stopping the squeal. You know, we don't say the F word here. We call it mod, and we don't say we say an S word, but it rhymes with squeal. You know, we don't say that word, the other word. You can kind of figure it out. You got to be careful with all. We're under a lot of attack here. That's why you got to search us out, spread the word. Appreciate everybody's loyal listening, but push this show out far and wide, because shows like ours are under attack. But there's no Donald Trump, because like I say, remember last year Cuomo was seen as the potential savior of the Democratic Party if Biden continued to flounder. He was going to, so they propped him up. The guy got an Emmy. We forget this sometimes. The man got an Emmy award for his press conferences about how great he was doing with COVID-19. At the same time, he was covering up the fact that literally 15,000 elderly people were killed on his watch directly due to his policies for the most part. So it's just unbelievable. And CNN, my God, man, Chris Cuomo just came out yesterday or day before and basically said, well, you know, I know what's happening with my brother. I can't cover it, you know, because it's basically you understand why, he said, and CNN has to cover it. Well, that sounds reasonable, but Chris Cuomo was covering it all the time last year. Him and his brother were mocking people about what was happening with COVID and the corona in New York. Why then? Why was that okay and not now? It's because they were playing a role and they were trying to one, knock Donald Trump and elevate Cuomo in case Biden failed. I mean, you tell me if you disagree with me. If there's another explanation, please let me know. Chime in on Facebook, YouTube. I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. A second former aide came forward with a sexual harassment allegations. I think there's a total of 3 right now against Cuomo on Sunday. Charlotte Bennett, a health policy advisor in the Democratic governor's administration until November, told the New York Times that Cuomo inquired about her sex life and asked whether she had had sex with older men. This actually seems to be like normal behavior for these Democrats. I mean, can you imagine if a Republican did this, what would happen for Republicans? If Ron DeSantis had done something like this, man, they would be like lining up. They would literally be trying to burn the governor's mansion down right now. There'd be riots in Tallahassee, man. But this just seems like par for the course for Democrats, man. Remember, I'm just going to give you a few examples. How about our Vice President, Kamala Harris? You know, I call her Kamala, where's my Willie Harris? Now, she knows all about sexual favors and playing the game, because Billy Bob tells me we actually have the vessel that she used to rise to the top, man. And they may be putting it in the Smithsonian. That might actually be the couch that she used to get Willie Brown's attention, you know, because he elevated her. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you could probably figure it out. But Kamala Harris, man, she had an affair with a guy like twice her age, Willie Brown, the former Speaker of the House of the state of California and mayor of San Francisco. But I want to play you a clip. This is Kamala Harris during the campaign before Biden became the nominee and she became the vice presidential nominee. This is her being asked about the accusers of Joe Biden, because there were multiple accusers, but one in particular accused him credibly, and she spoke to it. I think she was honest about it then, but I don't know about now. But this is Kamala Harris, candidate Kamala Harris, talking about the woman that was specifically accusing Joe Biden of literally sexual assault when he was a senator. Check it out.
I believe them, and I respect them being able to tell their story and having the courage to do it.
Do you believe that the vice president should enter this race?
Oh, he's going to have to make that decision for himself. I wouldn't tell him what to do.
She said right there, it's hard to hear it, but she said she believed the women that accused Biden. And when asked should he drop out of the race, she said, well, he's going to have to make that decision. Now think about this. If you actually believe, if you had an ounce of integrity, if women's issues mattered to you, if the Me Too movement mattered to you, how in the world could you become the vice president was someone you believe sexually assaulted a woman. So either she was lying then, or she's lying now, or she doesn't care, which is the most likely thing, because she's just about getting what she wants. But think about that. Just let that sink in. She accepted being the vice president candidate, and now she is the vice president, God help us, from a man that she believed was guilty of sexual assault. I mean, that's hard to compartmentalize, but apparently I guess power is a great aphrodisiac in itself. A video resurfaced on Sunday of Cuomo saying to a female reporter, "I want to see you eat the whole sausage during a 2016 New York State Fair." So I'm going to play you this video. It's a couple minutes long. And as I say, this is at a luncheon at the New York State Fair. A couple things I want you to kind of pay attention to. One is Cuomo's daughter is sitting right next to him, young daughter. And I want you to watch her reaction as she's listening to what her father is saying to this. And then the reporter herself, who starts out off camera, then comes in and sits, how she is just lapping up Governor Cuomo, man. She is just absolutely fawning over this dude. And we're going to play that, and then we're going to come back and talk about double standard, if there is such a thing. But check out Cuomo. And I think this video is about as much sexual innuendo as you can have without saying, you know, hey, whatever. Anyway, check it out.
Sandwich. That's it.
Will you eat the whole sandwich?
I will eat the whole sandwich.
Yeah?
Okay.
Who made sausage being
I can eat the whole sandwich.
food? Like, it wasn't like this 15, 20 years ago. It was when Rick Blasio did that it became a thing and you could eat. I think.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Like that. Yeah, shoot it. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I want to see you eat the whole sausage.
I don't know if I should eat the whole sausage in front of you, but I'm definitely going to eat it.
You gotta do it now. No excuses. You know everyone, you know the county executive?
I do. Now you're going to know me in a whole different level. When I eat the sausage.
My daughter Michaela.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
I think we're going to be here a while.
Yeah.
We might be here a while.
These are
Now there's
just.
a lot of pressure on me to eat
Oh,
this.
yes, it is. Oh, yeah.
Be on this side, huh?
Wait.
Yeah,
Can
that's
I
right.
take a selfie with you while I eat my sandwich?
There you go.
I think that's a fair trade.
Yeah, there's too much sausage in that thing.
You came to the inside the cage.
That's right.
You would have thought my golden ticket. It's not as easy to eat this in front of all these cameras as you make it seem.
Well, that's right.
Now
That's
I know
your
what the
thing.
animals feel.
Not only do you have to eat the sausage, but
That's
you
all.
have to.
That's part of the being the governor, right? Learning how to.
Well, there is a course when you get elected to office. They have a course called Eating on Camera, and then eating on camera while talking to colleagues.
I haven't passed that course yet.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I need to make sure that I don't get it on you.
Don't get it on you. Don't be like Monica Lewinsky and get it on your dress, young lady. I mean, did you hear? You really need to watch that again. We're not playing it. Maybe I'll post it up on my Facebook site. But the sexual innuendo is just over the top. And then she gets to the table. This kind of shows you the press, how they deal with these Democrats, man. She's basically, the one woman comments on there. She says, well, you got inside the cage here. And then she says, yeah, I guess this was talking about the sausage, my golden ticket. And he keeps saying, you got to eat the whole sausage, and all that. And don't get any on you. And earlier in the video, did you notice that Cuomo is like looking around? He's looking for his like sausage procurement guy, I suppose. It gets over here, go over and get there, bring her over here, man. I mean, wow. These Democrats and this idea, and I've said this before, but if I say it, it bears repeating. If you're new to the show, first of all, howdy, how are you? Welcome. You're in the right place now. But if you're looking for political correctness, you're in the wrong place. But let me tell you one of my axioms. I got a few axioms out there. And one of them is this idea of a double standard. There is no double standard, because a double standard implies there is one standard for the left and one for the right. But in reality, there's only a standard for the right. Tell me what standard there is. Look at this right here. This is Gillibrand, the senator, who was coming out all about sexual stuff. I mean, she ran about president for about a day. But here she is hugging up with Weinstein, hugging up with Bill Clinton, when the Democrats knew, well, Clinton was no open secret, no secret to whatever Bill Clinton was, but Harvey Weinstein was known to be a sexual predator by the insiders in Hollywood and the Democratic elite for a long, long time. But here she is sucking up to these guys, trying to get their favor. What is it with these Democrats? There is no double standard, by the way. I mean, let me get back to that and finish on that. There's only a standard for the right. Tell me what standard that the left is held to. Really. I mean, President Trump, they tried to derail him for actually saying what he could do, not what he did. You know, the Bush sex tapes, all that was his name, Billy Bush or whatever his name was. But if you go back and actually listen, and I'm not condoning what then candidate or actually citizen Trump at that time said, I'm not condoning it. But if you listen to it, he's talking about being a wealthy, powerful person and a personality and what he could do. He didn't say he actually did it. And he was raked over the coals, and they tried to make it the October surprise and defeat him and everything else, right? And that's fair to a certain extent. But on the left, nothing happens to these people. Think about it. Bill Clinton was elected twice to president of the United States when he had multiple women. You remember what was that Flowers lady that before the Clintons first got in the White House, they had to go on 60 Minutes and talk about the affair him and Hillary did with Miss Flowers back in the day. They had to come out and admit it and talk about it. Yet the Democrats forgave them for that. They don't care about that. The Me Too movement means nothing, man. We'll talk about Biden here in a minute, but think about his accusers. We talked about that earlier. I want to make a quick point on that. He had the ability to release his records from the University of Delaware that covered all of this stuff, and he refused to do so. And the press just let him go on and on and on. And they're worried about Trump's tax returns when there's evidence that Joe Biden sexually assaulted a woman inside the Capitol building. Talk about feeling threatened at the Capitol, but yet they don't even talk about it now. Shows like mine are the only one you'll even bring it up, man. You'll probably get canceled if you try to bring it up. On Sunday, Cuomo issued a statement saying he was truly sorry if some of the things I have said have been misinterpreted as an unwanted flirtation. So you think about that. He's truly sorry. Let me read this one more time, because there's a subtlety in here I want you to get. On Sunday, Cuomo issued a statement saying he was truly sorry. He's not saying, I'm sorry that I asked that woman to eat the sausage. He's not saying, I'm sorry that I asked a young woman if she had sex with older men. He's not saying that he's sorry about forcibly kissing someone or asking them to have strip poker. He's not saying he's sorry about that. He's sorry that the women took it the wrong way. So he's not apologizing at all. In fact, he is blaming the women for misinterpreting what he was saying was friendly deal and making it sexual. Really. And the left is going to let him get away with that? My God, man, it's just unbelievable. Cuomo went on to say, to be clear, I never inappropriately touched anybody, by whose definition? And I never propositioned anybody, and I never intended to make anyone feel uncomfortable, except maybe his daughter, who was sitting beside him in that video while, and there's some other shots of her kind of just going like, really, Pop? That kind of look. I mean, these people have no shame. He went on to say, I now understand that my interactions may have been insensitive or too personal, and that some of my comments given my position made others feel in ways I never intended. Again, he's not taking responsibility for anything. If you listen to what he's saying, he's blaming the women. He's blaming, it's like Bill Clinton. I was just standing there, you know. I mean, good Lord, man. But they let him have a pass on this. He says, I acknowledge some of the things I have said have been misinterpreted. Again, blaming the women as unwanted flirtation. To the extent anyone felt that way, I am truly sorry about that. About 10 times here, he's basically blaming the women, and he gets away with it by basically saying, I'm sorry that you took it the wrong way. I mean, oh my God. Now, I mentioned double standard. I want to play a few videos that'll show you right now that prove my point that there is no double standard. There's a standard for the right. There's a standard for Donald Trump. There's a standard for somebody like me. But what standard, I ask you, please chime in on Facebook or YouTube, spell out our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks. Let me know where I'm wrong, because I don't see any standard for the left. I'd like to know where they're held to one. But here we have the famous crazy Mazie Hirono of Hawaii talking during the Kavanaugh hearings at a presser about who should be believed and who should just shut up. Check it out.
Of course it helps that there are women on that committee, but you know what? I expect the men in this country and the men in this committee, and many of them, believe me, because we all signed on to this letter to demand an FBI investigation, but really, guess who's perpetuating all of these kinds of actions? It's the men in this country, and I just want to say to the men in this country, just shut up and step up. Do the right thing.
You men shut up. So Joe Biden should have just shut up and been investigated by the FBI. So Cuomo should just shut up and be investigated by the FBI. Yeah. Bill Clinton should have shut up a long time ago, and Hillary, by the way, and just been investigated by the FBI. Here we have Brett Kavanaugh being accused of something from high school, when the woman that was accusing him had basically zero credibility. And yet Mazie Hirono is saying that, Kavanaugh should shut up, just listen to these women. And, I might be able to say, hey, we should believe accusers if it were held to the same standard. But there is no standard for the left. Think about it. They just elected Joe Biden. Okay? I mean, my God, man. And here is Bill Clinton. I want to play this is a famous clip from him when talking about his accuser, in this case, Monica Lewinsky. And keep in mind that this dude would have probably been elected for a third term if they could. Remember, there was a woman, the head of Now at the time, I think it was, I can't remember her name, who actually said about this Lewinsky affair that if it meant abortion would stay legal in the United States, that she would give Clinton what they call a Lewinsky Now. She actually said that. I should have pulled that video. So, I mean, these Democrats have zero shame and are held to no standard. But keep in mind, Bill Clinton, this is one of the most famous videos of him talking about and just talking about, they talk about Trump lying or whatever. Bill Clinton is looking straight at you in the camera and lying, and Hillary and all are right there. And they all know that everybody in that room knew that he was lying, and he got an ovation for this. Check it out.
American people, I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you.
Listen to that ovation he gets. Look at his face. He is so sincere. I mean, this dude is a sociopath. If you think of it, he is a professional liar. It reminds me of a Seinfeld episode when Jerry Seinfeld asked George on there. How do you pass a lie detector test? And he said, remember that it's not a lie if you believe it. I mean, my God, he's sitting there just adamantly knowing that he's lying. Everybody in that room, pretty much, probably even the janitor behind the closet door, knew that he was lying, and they still give him an ovation. Tell me where there is a double standard, because there isn't one. There's one standard. And then, of course, when we talk about, let me check my time, I'm doing pretty good here. When we talk about double standards, keep in mind that the Democrats just elected this dude to the office, the highest office of a land. Check him out.
And by the way, you know, I got hairy legs that turn turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
There is so much in that. That's the popcorn video now, and they did animation, but that's actually Joe Biden's words. He was saying that speech, and they did some great animation behind it. But that's from the whole popcorn deal when he was dedicating that swimming pool. But he says, you know, kids love my leg. And think about this. He says in that video, and I don't think he ever got questioned by this one single time by any presser or in the debates at all. He says, and I learned about roaches. Do you know what he's talking about there? Can you guess? He's talking about black children. He's talking about black children. He's calling them roaches. Yet Donald Trump is the racist. I mean, there's so many examples of this. I mean, think about it. Children love rubbing the hair on my legs in the pool. Really? I mean, tell me where there's a double standard. There's only one standard, and it's a standard that the right is held to. This guy is now sitting in the White House. And think about it. His vice president says she believes the accusers. Mazie Hirono says all these women are to be believed, and there should be an investigation, FBI, but not for Joe Biden. No, not for Cuomo. Maybe now, because under all of this was known about Cuomo in inner circles, and he's killed 15,000 old people, and they're not even talking about that anymore. All of this because he was going to be the pinch hitter if Biden struck out, so to speak. I mean, wow. Can you see this? But this is not even being portrayed accurately in the news at all. You're only going to find it places like here at JMT. That's why we appreciate and need your support more than ever. All right, we got a few minutes left. I want to get into a different story about another governor, a great governor, Ron DeSantis. I mean, this guy has the courage, man. We need 100 Ron DeSantises, not only 50 in the governor, but another 50 up there in the Senate, or hopefully maybe one day in the White House. But this is a Politico story. DeSantis and Florida GOP target China after CPAC, according to Politico. That was Mr. DeSantis who opened up CPAC, by the way. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and top GOP lawmakers unveiled legislation on Monday to create new guidance for universities, the public universities, state agencies, and even local government working with foreign governments like China as part of a push to thwart the theft of intellectual property. Let me say right away on this, ladies and gentlemen, this, because we talk about China a lot, and sometimes we get confused. It's easy to get confused between people who are ethnically Chinese and the China government. There are a lot of students, I see them here every day at the University of Florida, who are Chinese descent or actual citizens of China. There's a large contingent. And there's some that are part of these Confucian organizations that actually are probably working undercover for the Communist Chinese Party, but I think the vast majority of them are trying to get a great education. We're one of the University of Florida has it's called IFAS, a tremendous program in agriculture. And the Chinese, man, they are over here learning about our agriculture because we're second to none in that. So I want to make sure you understand that I am not knocking Chinese people per se, but the Chinese Communist Party, which is one of the most evil things on the planet, and especially to their own citizens. But what Mr. DeSantis is doing here is something I've been talking about now for the last few months. You know, we're talking about leadership. Who's going to lead the Republican Party? Who's going to do this? Who's going to be the leaders? And it's primarily focused on Washington, right? But I'm here to tell you that I think we're going to move into an era of states. I'm not talking about states' rights, the negative way to use that. But you're going to see leadership is going to be coming from the states on every issue, especially conservatives. And Ron DeSantis is leading the way. I put this map up there because I believe that I'm not talking about secession. That could happen. I'm not advocating for violence. It could happen. People are pretty frustrated. But I think what's more likely to happen, and I think you're seeing this, and DeSantis is taking the lead on this, you're seeing states take the lead on issues like, for instance, Texas has taken the lead on the border issue. Florida under DeSantis has taken the lead now with China, but big tech and some other things, and we'll talk about more of that in a moment. But I think you're going to see like-minded states actually not declaring their independence, but joining together to challenge the what's coming out of the Biden White House and the federal government. I think that's what you're going to see. You're not going to see leadership. It's going to be decentralized down to the state level. And that's actually the way the Constitution was supposed to be in the first place. States were supposed to have the power, and Washington was not supposed to be the all-powerful. DeSantis moved to back policies aimed at China as part of a broader pattern of endorsing legislation sparked by conservatives and former President Donald Trump that plays well with the base. Man, I saw this picture and I just loved it. This came out right after CPAC. That is one of the best memes I've seen. It doesn't say a word, but it says so much, doesn't it? To me. I mean, it just, yeah, and to answer Donald Trump's question at the beginning of CPAC, a lot of us miss you very much, sir. The Republican governor, talking about DeSantis, seen as a potential 2024 contender for president, no question about that, has also called on legislatures to crack down on tech companies. Basically, he set up a thing where you can't censor us. So they're trying to do that. He's trying to take on big tech here in Florida. He's revamped the state's election laws. He's trying to secure things like voter ID and make sure that the absentee balloting is really the way it's supposed to be used. Florida actually got it right in the 2020 election. And I'm not just talking about the fact that Trump won. If you look politically at the coalition that was built here with the Republican Party of Florida, Donald Trump, Ron DeSantis, I played a small role as a member of the party myself. We got it right, and we should be mimicked across the United States of America. I really believe they need to take a look at that. But that's not to say that we can't tighten up our ship a little bit. And Ron DeSantis is trying to make sure that what happened in places like Georgia, Michigan, does not become the norm here, because the House under Nancy Pelosi is trying to do this House Bill 1, I think it's called, that basically federalized election and would take the power of running the elections in a place like Florida away. If that bill passes, we'll never get a conservative elected to the White House again, let alone just a Republican. But and approve a contentious bill to increase criminal penalties against violent protesters. I put this up, and I'm actually proud of this. Some people give me a hard time. We are in the gunshine state, ladies and gentlemen. Stand your ground here. You know, you can, as I tell people all the time about these crazy clowns, I use it as an example. You remember when they had the crazy clowns going around and terrorizing neighborhoods? Where I live, that would last about one, maybe two houses, and the sheriff would come out and say, I heard there was crazy clowns around here. You say, yeah, I saw. Well, where are they? Oh, he's buried back there in the garden. We got corn planted over him right now. Because don't try that kind of stuff here in Florida. But Ron DeSantis expanded the stand your ground to actually say, you know, you have a right to defend your business against it being burned down and looted. You have a right to drive down the highways that you paid for. You can keep on driving. I mean, come to Florida. Don't bring your politics. I call Florida the free state of Florida now, because that's exactly what it is. me check my time. Pretty close to out of time. But speaking at an event in the Capitol, Tallahassee, on Monday, DeSantis said the proposals are necessary to ensure tax dollars don't end up in the hands of the likes of Nicolas Maduro, that's Venezuela, Kim Jong-un, North Korea, or the Chinese Communist Party. He said we need to take action, stand firm against the Chinese Communist Party and foreign influence and interference in American research, education, and public affairs. What he's talking about is that, you know, these research universities like the University of Florida have all kind of different things, from crop type stuff to even nuclear type stuff, that the Chinese are infiltrating. They're giving tens of thousands of dollars. He's saying anything to over $50,000, they're going to take a direct look at if you take it from a foreign national or a foreign government. But basically what he's trying to do is keep them from pirating, stealing intellectual property and research that should be for the benefit of the citizens of Florida and the United States of America, and not the benefit of communist China. So thank God for governors like Ron DeSantis. I think you're going to see people inspired by the president, inspired by what Ron DeSantis and people like the great governor out in Texas and other places, and they're going to come together and form an alliance. And you're going to see lawsuits going all the way up to the Supreme Court, because the leadership is not going to come from the swamp of Washington. If we have any chance to save this republic, it's going to have to come from the state level. And that's where you could have a major impact if you get truly woke, if you man the political ramparts so we don't have to man the real ones again. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Facebook page, like it, share it with others. Remember our YouTube channel, spell it all the way out, John Martin Talks. Remember our sponsors, BDU, our sponsors, 20% off on patriotthreads.org, and of course the great support that we get from Recoil. Check them all out. We're also America's Voice News. Check them out. We're glad to be a part of that as well. Look for all of this above the video, no matter when or where you are watching it. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all pray for this great nation, because she needs it now more than ever and has deserved it always. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.